This will be a telephone call to Sheriff Vic Williams. Date is October 31, 2019, time's about 10:30 a.m. Reference Brainerd Police Department case number 180154005.
Please enter your authorization code followed by the pound sign.
Sheriff's office, how can I help you?
Sheriff Williams, please.
Yep, one moment while I get you transferred over.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, you've reached Itasca Sheriff Vic Williams. I'm not here right now, but if you leave your name and number, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911.
I'll record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or stay on the line for further options.
Hi, Sheriff. Chad Clefman again, Lieutenant, Brainerd Police Department. Called you back on October 15th. You haven't got back to me. Well, actually, you returned my call on the 15th. I called you back on the 21st. Anyway, sure you're aware other people have come forward, provided other statements and other emails, messages, and evidence kind of since we talked last. Some of which kind of contradicts your statement with me. Not sure what's going to happen from here after the investigation is submitted, whether it's going to be grand jury or if the special prosecutor is just going to review it alone. I guess the reason I'm calling is to see if you want to potentially provide another statement, knowing that other people came forward with other emails, messages, etc. If you would like to provide another statement or talk again, we can certainly do that. Right now it's the 31st, about 10:35 a.m. I work next week, work the rest of this week till Friday at 5, and then next week Monday through Thursday. You can give me a call if you'd like, 218-829-2805. Take care. Bye. I'm Brian, my tape recorder's on. Date November 14th, time 12:46 p.m. Reference case number 180154005. Being agency assist. Brian, can you tell me your full name, date of birth?
Brian Douglas Johnson, Bryan, 1124.
Okay, right now we're at the Brainerd Police Department conference room.
My address is West Avenue or P.O. Box 117, Bovee, Minnesota 55709. Phone number 218-259-23.
Okay, are you employed anywhere right now?
No, my employment with Itasca County Sheriff's Office. I'm in arbitration appeal right now.
When did you start at Itasca County Sheriff's Department?
April 2002, I believe. Yeah, April 23rd, 2002.
You started as a deputy?
Jailer. I was in the jail for about 2.5 years, and then I think in 2005 I went on the road.
Did you ever advance from deputy?
No, we didn't have much for advancement there. You're either a road deputy or an investigator, and I never put in for investigators.
Recently you were terminated from employment from Itasca County Sheriff's Department?
Correct, yeah.
Can you tell me in your words what happened?
November 2016 or beginning of December, my dad was found unconscious down in Duluth. He had COPD. My uncle found him. They gave him a 1 to 3% chance of making it. So my brother flew in from the Arctic Circle. He works all over the world, and I was back and forth out of Duluth for over a month, and we still had paper time cards up there. We didn't do it on a computer yet. They just started doing it here. I filled out my time card in advance, and I was supposed to start teaching DARE the first 2 weeks of January, but because I was running back and forth, I didn't go. They pulled me in and asked me about my time card, and I told them I wasn't sure. I'd have to look, and I called them back the next day. I said, no, you're right, I wasn't there the first 2 weeks, but I was also doing backgrounds and FTO that I didn't put on my time card, so I told them just take the hours from there and exchange them for the DARE hours. Now they showed up and put me on administrative leave for lying, and through the court process, they tried charging me criminally with theft of time, and that was dismissed through Bemidji, or through Brainerd, or no, what is that, Beltrami County. He waited 9 weeks after that was dismissed by the prosecutor, and then he fired me for policy violations for conduct on becoming an officer. So.
When was your last day of employment there?
Oh, actual on the payroll or working the road?
Payroll.
After payroll?
Approximately.
Probably April 2018, right before I filed for sheriff. So I filed to run for sheriff this April 22nd, so it was the week before that.
You said April 22nd?
I believe so. Yeah, that's when you can file for sheriff, and he fired me right before that, so like around the 18th or something.
Were you going to run for sheriff either way?
No. I told him that before, but he'd heard rumors that I was going to run for sheriff again, so. People had asked me throughout the year if I was going to run. Well, I'd been on administrative leave for over a year and a half. So at that point, I told some of my coworkers I was seriously thinking about it again because I couldn't sit at home and do nothing all the time, so.
So it's currently in arbitration?
Right. Well, I won. Well, my first arbitration hearing came back. The only issue that he terminated me on was my time card, and the arbitrator cleared me on all time card issues, but didn't believe the fact that my dad was sick because I provided no medical paperwork for my dad, which I was never told I had to, which now I have it all. And he said he didn't believe how a call came in about the principal at the high school due to the DARE stuff because he was a complainant and asked if I'd ever dealt with this guy before. And I said the only time I ever heard his name on the radio, we were dispatched for an assist another agency looking for the guy. It came out that he'd been involved in a hit and run, possibly hit a telephone pole down by Sherburne County. And I guess that wasn't the case. His wife was driving and backed into somebody instead, but that's how it came out to dispatch. So now it's being appealed.
Who did the investigation that led to your termination?
From Beltrami, you mean?
Yeah.
What was his name? Thompson, Bill Thompson.
What investigation did Michelle Saldo do?
She was paid $10,000 by the sheriff's office to investigate my time card, and she came up, which made the front page of the paper, said that I lied 19 times. Even the arbitrator dismissed all of those except for the fact that he didn't believe that my dad was in the hospital, and he didn't believe how the story came in about the dispatcher. So
what's the difference between Bill Thompson's investigation and Michelle Saldo's investigation?
Well, Thompson didn't interview probably 5 of my witnesses. The one gal I mentioned 6 times that worked at the school that I was there, Jennifer McInerney. I said I talked with her the one day, and he never spoke with her once. And Thompson said the same thing, that story about the hit and run. He found out it was a hit and run, but his wife was driving in a parking lot, and it didn't involve a telephone pole, so he thought I was lying. But yet he never talked with my 2 partners that were standing there in dispatch when it came in.
So Bill did the investigation first?
Yep.
And then Michelle did basically the same investigation again?
Hers was a little different because my attorney from MPPOA, Tom Kelly, out of the cities, was talking with the new Beltrami County attorney and said, hey, look, Brian's worked all these other hours that weren't on his time card, these hours for my FTO and for my background work and whatnot. So they asked me to provide, like ICRs when I was out, and that Michelle Soto would look and she'd say, well, we checked in this date right here, January, whatever, 11th, it says you put in for an hour and a half. Well, we checked you went 10-7 at the end of my shift at 6:38. And I said, well, I have messages on my phone that show another deputy coming to the Bovey Police Department to pick me up and give me a ride home because you need to use my squad that night, because I was still there typing on a report. I said, just because I went 10-7 on it doesn't mean, that I'm done at the end of my shift, really. I said, yeah, I'm signed off, so they're not giving me another call, but I was there typing. And then they, just little things like that. And one of the gals I did a background investigation on, I put down an hour that I met with her cousin. So she came and testified that it might only been a half hour for 40 minutes that I talked to her. I said, exactly. I said, but I was out, it's my day off. If I come out for 10 minutes on my day off, I get, per my union contract, I get 2 hours of pay. So, I said, right there, I just saved you another hour that I didn't put down, So it was little references like that she said I was lying about, because this gal said I was there for a half hour, 40 minutes, and I put down an hour. So it wasn't that I didn't work it. It was, I don't think she had a clear understanding of how our contracts worked.
Tell me about your relationship with the sheriff, from the beginning through the end.
He was actually, when I started, I was like a resident deputy. I started out in Big Fork, and then I think 4 to 6 months after that, I became a floater deputy, so I didn't really have a set schedule, but I could take my squad car home because we had patrol areas where we had to live in. So Victor was the chief of police in Deer River. Got along with him really good for years. I actually helped campaign for him the first time he got elected. I was upset 4 years afterwards because one of my friends that worked in the jail, his mom ended up passing away suddenly, and his dad started dating somebody like a month later. The guy that worked in the jail with me, he took it hard, and he took a bunch of pills and tried to commit suicide. So I stopped in, plowed his driveway all winter long for him, checked on him, and this was like a year before 2013. And I asked him, I said, hey, it's none of my business, but how's the office been? And him and his wife said, Bryce, we haven't heard a word from him. Not one person stopped by. The sheriff never called him, checked on him, never sent him a card, nothing. So I told my wife, I said, well, I'm going to run for sheriff. That's just, you don't care about your own staff, you don't care about people. And in the first 4 years, we didn't really see him at all. He was hardly ever in the office, and all the guys were complaining that, morale was sucking. And so I decided to run for sheriff, and then...
When was that?
2014. And that, I didn't really campaign all that hard or whatnot. I talked to him before I ran. I said, hey, if I don't win, I just want to get my name out there. So when you're done, because I know there was like 4 or 5 other guys that wanted to run for sheriff. Now there's guys talking about running next time, in our office. So I just, I talked to him. We have this spring fling thing. It's called a fishing tournament every, first week after opener up on Lake Winnie. And we're all there. He asked me, him and I were sitting there having a beer together, and he's like, so are you going to run again? I said, no, not until you're done. He's like, when you're done, I'll back. He's like, when I'm done, I'll back, yeah. He's like, I said, I just want to get my name out there. Then, you start hearing stuff, and it's like I'm walking on eggshells, and, because you feel like they're watching you every little move you make. I started getting in trouble. There was a group of guys that served papers one night, or that didn't serve papers on a weekend. They were left with 14 papers to serve. And me and my crew came back on Monday, and I guess we got an email, but my email wasn't working. And I called the chief deputy beforehand. I said, hey, I'm not feeling good. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm either going to be at house or at the office, unless I get a call. That's when I found out I had type 2 diabetes, so I wasn't feeling right. She's like, yeah, no problem. So we went in for training the next day around noon. She called me into our office and said, hey, we got to write you up for not serving these papers. I said, what do you mean? She's like, well, I sent you an email. I said, I didn't get it. I told you I wasn't feeling good and whatever. I said, my partners were tied up before that. And so long story short, we got a verbal reprimand. So the next night when we were working, we had 14 papers, so we told our dispatchers, hey, we're going to be able to serve in these papers so we get them done. Because the crew before didn't even have an attempt on them all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Didn't even have an attempt on them. So I was going up the scenic highway, and they called my number, and I said, yeah, 10-6 paper service. Get back to you in a minute, whatever. So I get out. That's all I said over the radio with my partners. Yeah, I'll be done serving papers as well. Yep, I'm done serving papers too. I'm done for the night because it was almost 9:30 at night or whatever. Well, the sheriff was at home. We found out later drinking, and we got an email within a half hour saying be in my office tomorrow at 10 o'clock, no exceptions. Well, we were getting written up. I got written up, I think, 2 or 3 times that year. Just stupid stuff, that. And one of his buddies from Deer River said more stuff than I said on the radio, and he never got in trouble. So I went down with my union rep. We went down to file harassment paperwork with HR, and they talked us out of that. And next thing you know, I'm in trouble for my time card. So. And it's just, I don't know. He's not my favorite person in the world right now, I should say. But if he'd actually have the guts to sit down and talk to me, I'd sit and talk to him. But he won't even do that. So.
How did it come to your attention that the Soldo report was made public? Did you have any idea it was going to be made public to the newspaper?
No, I was told. Well, I knew he'd try to do something like that, but I was told by my union attorney, Teresa Joppa, AFSCME attorney out of Fargo. She said that because there was 2 other deputies, a jailer and another road deputy, that were texting me jokes and whatnot, and said that it can't be public because of our names, and it protects past and current officers. That's what the Data Privacy Act protects. She's like, so there's no way they can. Well, then Saturday, the 27th of October, she called me and she's like, well, looks like you got a lawsuit. No, they just released private data to the paper. She's like, you need to find out who did that because it's a misdemeanor in the state of Minnesota to release that data. So that's when I first knew about it. And my wife was actually down in Minneapolis at continuing ed training for her job. And she sent me a picture of the article, and I didn't even read it. But
you've since read it, though, correct?
No.
No?
Bits and pieces. I don't even want to read it. I've read some of it, and then when I find out from my work partner at work that when he sat down in the room for his Garrity tennis, he got interviewed by Soto during this, that they went back 2.5 years on our conversations. Every time we said the F word or whatever, it's sexual harassment, pornographic in nature. So, yeah.
Did you authorize anybody to release it?
No.
Do you know who released it?
I'm assuming Soto's firm, like she did last time for my time card issue, and right to Vic and Denise. Our office, and then HR probably had a copy, Lynn Hart and Brett Skiles. But, I mean, they've had my phone for 2 years. I gave them my password for my phone,
Wasn't there an issue where you wouldn't give it to them?
No, they didn't give it back to me. It was actually court-ordered by Judge...
So initially when you gave them the cell phone...
I gave it to them the first day I went on administrative leave.
Did you give them the password?
No, not until they asked for it. Because I didn't know how long I was going to be out. They actually told me they were going to try to get me back to work as soon as possible.
It was my understanding that, and I could be wrong, that I thought I read that when they initially had your cell phone that you wouldn't give them the password. No,
I was down at Tom Kelly's office when Beltrami County Attorney Arden, what's that guy's name? But they asked for my password, and I gave it to him right down there in the room when we were in his office. It was all 5s or whatever the password was. The only thing we needed off my cell phone was an email from the jail administrator who was in charge of our backgrounds. And that's how I was trying to prove that I worked all this other overtime during the first week of January, because I had an email from him, who's a captain, telling me that it had to be done by January 6th. So that's why I needed the email. So Judge Ledoux court ordered my phone back to me. I believe it was in October 2017. We never got it back. We requested it.
Whose cell phone is that?
Mine. It's a county phone.
Okay.
But
was it a county phone that they paid for that they assigned
right.
to you?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Were you aware of policies about the cell phone usage?
No. Actually, Justin Worley is our IT guy. He was working on my squad, and that's what he's like, what do you got 2 cell phones for? I said, you never know when somebody's going to send you something. He's like, they can't look at your phone. I said, the policy says unless you're involved in a criminal activity, he's like, we have no right to look at your phone. But they changed it in 2015, so that's what Michelle Soto read to me. My phone actually got brought up during my arbitration hearing, and that's why my union attorney said it would never, because they said there was a bunch of pictures and stuff on there. Well, they showed me pictures of this gal, and I started to laugh, and they're like, you've been texting this girl right here. And I said, no. I said, because I drive semi-truck on my days off, I said, one of the mechanics at Cook Logging sent me these pictures. I said, I deleted them off my phone once he sent them to me. I said, I don't even know who this gal is. So. And then we ended up calling him at work, and my attorney and the other attorney were in the room, and I said, can you tell him how this got on my phone? And they did, and then I never heard nothing else about my phone.
Did you guys do a little follow-up with the Grand Rapids Herald trying to figure out who gave
Yeah, I didn't, but
who gave this solar report to them?
Yeah, Troy Ugrich and his brother Steve Ugrich actually went and...
Who are they?
Troy's a former deputy that resigned. He was there for 22 years. And he had a federal lawsuit against the sheriff, too, and then he didn't want to pay the extra $50,000 to go through the appeal process there with the federal court, so he's done. His brother owns, Steve Ugrich owns that Southeast Directional Drilling, so he just works for that company now. But
did they go there?
Yep.
On your behalf?
Yeah, they went there to find out who dropped off the... I didn't know they were going there. They called me after they were there and said that we recorded the conversation, and this is what it was, so...
So your understanding of who the Saldo report was released to, is that based on your opinion, or how is that based?
It's past practice.
So that would be...
I would guess
Sheriff
Williams, yeah.
Vic Williams,
Yep.
Deputy Chief
Denise Hurt. Those two and the county administrator, Brett Skiles, are probably the only ones that should have access to it. But
you also mentioned HR.
Lynn Hart, yep. So the two other people that got disciplined in my union, they met with her, was it Monday? The 22nd, Monday, October 22nd. And it was released to the Herald Review the 26th. And when Michelle Soto met with me for an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes the first time over my time card issue, it took her 2 months just for that hour and a half to type up her report. It was 500 and some pages long. This, she met with two people for like 3-4 hours, and she had it done in 4 days. Just in time before the election, you know.
Grand Rapids investigator Brian Matson forwarded me a lot of Facebook messages that were forwarded to him. How did he get those?
My wife has screenshotted messages for months that people have been talking about my phone that are friends of Sheriff Williams and Brett Skiles. Which, according to what my union attorney said, that they can say there is a complaint about a cell phone, but they're not supposed to mention my name for the Data Practice Act. So they could say there is an ongoing investigation, but they can't even say what it's about, according to what she told me and the statutes that she gave me. Because my buddy was just actually got contacted right before the election again to drop his grievance. Because
who's your buddy?
Jeremiah Johnson. He was contacted by the sheriff and asked if he'd drop his grievance, because if you drop your grievance, then it can be made public. Because you can make it public once all the investigation and disciplinary action is done. Well, he dropped it, but then he went back and said, no, I don't want to drop it. You have to go through with the grievance process. So.
What else do you think is important about your complaint?
Well, I know there's a group in Grand Rapids that, and probably has nothing to do with the criminal aspect of it, but the county's now spent $20-some thousand on this Michelle Soto to investigate me twice. I'm not even an employee there right now, and I haven't been when they did my phone, anything else. So there's people that want to hold him accountable for the monies that are gone out. That's, using public funds for own personal gain, that's where this is probably heading to down the road. I mean, I've been contacted, and I've worked there I've lived there my whole life. I know a lot of the people there, and from what I hear, there's a lot of higher ups in the county that are outraged that this has made it to the front page of the paper. Because guess what? Like I said, I got stuff on my personal phone right now that could probably burn 6 other deputies. They don't want that to ever happen, and I wouldn't do that anyways. But it makes our whole department look bad. That's all I heard the last couple weeks of campaigning was, so yeah, Brian's the only one that's got videos and stuff on his phone, jokes and whatnot sent to him. And yeah, so there's a lot of people that are pretty upset about this whole deal. And I believe 100% it cost me the election, So I was initially told to go file a complaint with the Grand Rapids Police Department by Teresa Joppa, my union attorney, and then my former MPPOA attorney, Tom Kelly. And then, I don't know if you saw the news, Mike Bliss's attorney just won a $528,000 lawsuit against the sheriff for the same kind of thing. His attorney is going to be my attorney in January. Said the same thing, make sure you file a complaint because its laws were broken. So you've got to find out who did it.
Okay. Any more you think that's important for this initial
Not just
interview?
The recording I heard, I don't know if I heard it right, but the guy at the Herald Review said it was dropped off by a reputable firm. So that's why I know when I talked to you before, I thought it was Soto's firm because she would have been up there dropping off her findings and that same day. So I don't know if it was her firm or her or herself or they had somebody walk over there and drop it off. I don't know. But I know there's definitely cameras in there to show, when who handed something to somebody, because it would be right in the hallway. Somebody would be seen leaving there. And I know it was hand-delivered to the Herald Review. It wasn't emailed or anything. It was handed to him. So.
How do you know that?
Well, just the guy said that on the tape. Was that the one that was dropped off with my name on it? Yeah.
Okay. We'll do a follow-up interview in the near future, more than likely, but as of now, I think, unless there's anything more you want to say for this initial interview, we can... Okay. Time is 1:13 p.m. End of statement. Okay. My tape recorder's on. This is reference agency assist number, case number 180154005, date December 19, 2018, time 10:22 a.m. Right now we're in the sheriff's office. Can I get your name and title, please?
Victor J. Williams, and I'm the county sheriff for Itasca.
Okay. How long have you been sheriff?
8 years this month.
You got another 4 in you, huh?
Yeah, I hope so.
Is the recount done?
The good Lord willing, yeah. Recount's done.
Was there any change in the...
One vote.
One vote?
Yeah. He lost 1 and I lost 2 or something. So it ended up being 217 separating them or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know exactly.
Okay. And this is reference to a misdemeanor investigation. The Grand Rapids Police Department conflicted this to us. They received an investigation request from Brian Johnson.
That's appropriate ringtone.
To investigate what turns out to be a misdemeanor release of private and confidential data. Michelle Saldo report in reference to Brian Johnson's termination that was released to the Grand Rapids Herald a couple of days prior to the election. So they asked me to check into that,
okay.
And that's why I am here. In the I've talked to quite a few people you probably know. Still waiting on the last thing other than talking with you and one other person here later. I'm getting with the Mark Anfinson. He's the attorney for the Minnesota Newspapers Association. Obviously, the Grand Rapids Herald didn't want to disclose their source on where they got the information, which is their right to do.
But wouldn't tell me either when they quiz me on it. They wouldn't. Of course, my thing is, okay, you're asking me this. How do you know this?
What do you mean?
Well, the editor had asked me a couple questions about, can you confirm you have the phone? And I said, no, I'm not talking about any of that.
Okay, so prior to them writing the article, they called you?
Yep.
Okay. Who called you?
Britt Arndt.
Okay. So they said that they received the report and then wanted you to
Didn't tell me what they had. They just were asking me some questions, and of course my answer was, how do you know this stuff? And they would not tell me. And I told them, well, I'd just as soon not know, whatever. And that was the extent of that conversation with her.
Okay. Because obviously Brian feels that you released it.
Yeah, I didn't, though. I didn't. It would have done me no good. All it does is cause more smear for us and more garbage and more... Nobody wins in that. Nobody.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. I knew right away they'd say, well, Vic did it, because that had been the theme, basically, of the whole year. Mm-hmm. That I was this monster. But as far as this thing goes, no way. The stuff I had on that with receiving it electronically, shared it with attorneys, with HR and Denise and Jeff Walker. The copies we had are in our files. First thing I did was, make sure that the ones I did have were in here and locked in our stuff. So, yeah, no way. Nope. And my concern is that this has happened to me before, and a coaching thing got out.
What was that?
That was a coaching document on one of the girls that got talked to about stuff. And they accused me of doing it.
A deputy?
Mm-hmm.
Accused me of doing it. Who did that get released to?
To an outside civil counsel. And ultimately, when Washington County investigated it, ended up that the deputy accusing me of it took a picture with her phone, and she's the one who shared it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Is that the one that Itasca had to pay out on?
No, that was different. That was
a different one.
Mike Bliss's deal. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I thought of the scenario that maybe Brian got it and did this to make you look bad, but Brian didn't actually get served it until well after.
From us. I couldn't tell you how he might have got it otherwise, but I'm not going to point the finger at him either because I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't get it until after the newspaper article. He was civil process served afterwards, so that kind of
I know when he got it because we actually, Glenn Hart asked that we have the service done.
Yeah.
So then I knew he was.
But it was done by a private service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Because they asked us who that we use to do them. Because we do the employment services, not by the deputies.
Okay.
We use NEMLA to do employment services, so it ain't another guy serving them.
Right.
A worker, co-worker, or whatever.
Okay, that makes sense. So, you know, I'm sure that they told you that we kind of went through IT and got the string of emails of when it was forwarded from Saldo to Scott, and then the whole chain of everywhere that the email went.
Yep.
And I've talked with all of them, from Kevin to Rick and Jeff and Lynn. Where was I going with that? And Saldo didn't release it. Who do you think could have? I mean, I have the whole chain of everybody that saw it that would have got it.
Unless somehow somebody got to it electronically, I don't know. I mean, I could sit here and speculate all day. You know, did a janitor see it? I don't know. It's frustrating because we're not a great big giant agency. We're all in each other's laps here.
Right.
And following our MIS people, they don't miss nothing. Our stuff is all on our stuff and tracked. And, you know, when you share this stuff or you save it or you file it, it's on the integrity of the people around it, basically. I don't see anyone's gain unless it was somebody who was either angry at Brian and somehow got it. I have no idea. I just know that I didn't give this out to anybody in any physical form or virtual form, a matter of fact. When that came out, I read the article in the paper, and I at first thought it was a bad one on me because the whole front page of the paper was the protests they were doing on me out front. Then I started reading it, and I couldn't frickin' believe it. I couldn't believe what was in that article, so I'm thinking to myself, okay, how do they know that? Short of sitting down and interviewing someone who knew the exact intimate details of that. I told my wife, I said, I can't freaking believe this. And I walked back to her and I said, this is not good, because it ain't good for any of us.
Right.
This looks like I've held on to something for this whole entire time. I knew about this whole thing Brian and the union were made aware of it in June.
Yeah, but the Saldo report didn't come out
No,
until
the Saldo
the
report did.
day before.
Yeah, but I knew about the whole entire scenario.
Yeah.
The pictures,
Yeah.
So...
And that, you know, and don't get me wrong, I know that the termination of Brian is absolutely justified. I met him and I talked to him, and I can imagine the kind of employee he might have been.
But that still doesn't take away the right that stuff was there. It was at a certain stage.
Well, whoever got it, maybe somebody I've already talked to, felt that the public should know the kind of person an employee that Brian was, and needed the public to know that before the election.
Yeah.
Obviously. And right now, you know, that's just kind of giving everybody
the benefit of the doubt.
Or the chance to say, you know what, I thought this is the kind of person Brian is, the kind of employee Brian is, and I think our county deserves to know, at risk of a data privacy issue or releasing private data I think the county deserves to know the kind of person and employee that Brian is, so that they don't vote for him. Somebody.
You can't, though.
Well, you're not supposed to.
Yeah, but you can't. That's why we're in the positions we're in.
Mm-hmm.
When everybody else thinks this has to happen, you have to be the last one who follows the law, because once that integrity is gone, it's gone.
And we have to hold our employees to a certain standard. And
to the standard that was going to be dealt with one way or the other, regardless of the timing. So my thing is what people don't realize is that caused a chain reaction that did not help me. That caused other people to jump back in the race. It caused so it's like, I think all these things through. I will not break the law. I won't go out and give this to them, so the old gotcha thing. I dealt with a whole summer of that garbage, where I just did what was right, stayed where I was supposed to, and followed the rules. And that's why when that came out, in whatever form it did, I'm looking at it going, this isn't good right now, because this is just more mud. More mud, and guess what? It looks like I flung the biggest mud ball.
Yeah.
So
ultimately, it looks bad for the whole department and the whole county, and it doesn't,
and they're going to scream. They're going to scream that from the top of the things. We know you did this to get us. No, and it's hard to describe it, because I don't know, you've probably never been through an election thing.
Well, I used to work at the sheriff's department, not your shoes, but I know the politicalness is tough.
And it was nuts. This was nuts this summer. There's people that would tell me, we wouldn't blame you if you did. There's people that would crucify me for doing it. And anyone who knows how I do this, I stayed on the high road. I did not fall into that. So when that came out, I just told my wife, I said, well, brace yourself. Because I said, they'll either try to do something worse, or they're going to blame me for this. I said, I'm just, whatever. That's about the time where you wonder if the money's even worth it.
Yeah.
Or the position or the power, and it's like crazy. So I'm sorry I can't be more help. I mean, I feel kind of helpless, because really I feel like, what am I missing again? I've had this a couple times dealing with that, where all of a sudden it's happening under my nose. This is a good example. This conduct was all going on my watch. I missed that whole thing. Of course, unless you got a reason to go look at their stuff.
Right.
You don't. So, I don't know. I wish I could help you more. I mean, electronically, I'm trying to think of, did we hit print and print it off in the courthouse somewhere?
Well, I do know it wasn't given to him in a paper form.
What was?
The Solder report was not given a newspaper in paper form.
It wasn't given to him in the paper form?
No.
Oh. Well.
So it was saved on a computer of some sort.
Well, how in the hell would they have got an electronic version of it? Because even our tracking would show that too, correct?
Yep.
Downloading, zip drives. I mean, it's in a way, it's hard. And I'm going to be blunt with you, and even on recording.
Yep.
That guy ain't my favorite guy.
Yeah.
But
I can see that.
It has tormented me on the idea of how it went. Brian, in my opinion, is corrupt. But I wouldn't break the rules. I would have followed it to my own detriment, is what I would have done.
Right.
To let it play its way out. And there may be nothing ever done with it. It was all part of what was investigated. It was all part of the arbitration. It's all done. Don't care. Move on. But I know you got to try to figure out how. See, that throws me a curve, because I figured somebody would have stole something that would have been on my desk or something, But to say they got it electronically,
it's not verified, but decent reason to believe that it was anyway. Through different terminology.
Huh.
So I'm not telling you 100% certain, but I'm pretty
I was more worried about that avenue than I was the electronic one. because I don't know how anybody would have got to that.
Well, it doesn't mean somebody can't print it and save it on a CD or a zip drive from a different non-county computer,
Oh.
So it could be printed and saved that way.
I'm probably one of the most illiterate when it comes to the computer stuff, so I'm trying to think of.
Right. So the best hope now is that the attorney for the Minnesota Newspaper Association will comply with a search warrant, because it is the criminal investigation, not just a First Amendment issue. And we'll see about that. So we'll see what happens there. Kind of go from there.
Yeah, sorry you got drug into this. I mean,
No, I don't mind. It's, like I said, your exact sentiment. We hold employees and everybody from the top down to the same standard.
Yep.
Brian was fired, terminated for very just cause, and for immoral, unethical board behavior that's conduct unbecoming. And we can't, people can't. Somebody did this, and I think it deserves to be known who did it.
Yep.
I will never have a problem doing internal investigations or things like this, because I think that
we're all held to the same thing.
And that's a higher standard than anything. Just like when I'm going through background investigations, potentially telling the chief that we should or shouldn't hire somebody, I'll ask the questions. You come across a $20 bill in an ATM, and when you're putting your card in, and what do you do with that money? Do you keep it because the last person was dumb and left it behind, or do you go to the bank and return it and say, hey, the last person that was here, this is their money, can you find out who it belongs to?
Yeah.
It's not your money. It doesn't belong to you. You hold to it. You give it back.
Yeah.
If a teller doesn't charge you for something in your load of groceries, and it's their fault, but you realize they didn't charge you, do you tell them so that you get charged, or do you take it because it's their fault? You better tell the cashier, because that's a standard we need.
It's out of theirs.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel good to hear that in a world where a lot of that's going away.
Yeah.
Because when you look at people and when you do what's right, it's harder for them to understand that than it is if you'd have took the shortcut.
Yeah.
And that gets difficult. And it's cost me over the last 2 years of fighting some things that I wasn't going to budge on. No, you can't do that, or you can't do this, or no, if I catch you doing something wrong, you're going to be held accountable for it, because that's what we're expected to do. If you can't do that, then vacate the chair and give it to somebody who will.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. You came on our potluck day, so it's a good day.
He said it was the one day that you'd for sure be around.
My ugly sweater got me pinned down because I'm here for goodies, but. And if you think of something you need to follow up on, you can. We're here.
The one question that I had reading through all the emails, the common question that you had for whether it was Kevin or Rick was, how can this not be? It seemed like your biggest concern is, how can this not be public information? You mentioned that he's a city council for.
Yep.
What city is that?
Bovey.
For Bovey, and
yep.
He's a public official. How can this not be public information? He questioned and looked to me like you were really trying to find a way for this to be public information.
It was. I was. That should have been tied to the arbitration. The whole reason that we even looked into that was the fact that he directed us to there because he said he texted the teachers to verify. So when we opened the phone and found this, his attorney blocked it in the arbitration and forfeited witnesses to appear. So when I'm quizzing these guys, I'm going, so he ain't held to the same standard I am? They printed every public thing on me they could, because I'm a public official.
Right.
Emails, receipts, all that stuff.
I think what what I'm talking about is when you got the Salda report and when you forwarded it to these people, you were asking all them, how can this not be public? he's a public official. How can this report not be a public document?
Yep, same thing to Lynn.
Right.
I guess I don't.
Well, I don't.
Why
were you so concerned if it was going to be the Saldo report was going to be public or
to
not?
prepare for this going out, because we had data requests waiting for this. The people knew this phone was being looked at. They had copies of forensic
so
stuff.
primarily because of data requests?
Yeah, and the fact that I had to prepare for this to go out. I can tell you something. I was not prepared for the way it went out.
Right.
Now, in these situations, when you know that this is out there, plus I have 2 other active staff members, a licensed female that's working in a town now adjacent to me that were all part of that data that's in that thing. They're all
right.
law enforcement officers. I've got women in the public that were involved and one other law enforcement agent who's from the Pequot Lakes area. So when I look at this stuff and I'm trying to prepare for the impact of this garbage, plus sitting down and terminating another employee and sanctioning a deputy for his exchange, this is all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, is this public? Is this going to go? If it is, I'm in the middle of an election, and I've got other staff involved. It created a nightmare. It was a bombshell. Wait, what she came back with, I was prepared for some of it, but never went through what Lynn Hart did. Lynn Hart got to see the photos, got to see who was involved, got to see pictures of the staff members that they were exchanging. I never seen any of that until Soldo laid it out in her report.
Right.
So I'm like, holy crap, if this goes out, now look at what it's going to, it's going to throw a rock in the middle of my pond here, and it's going to go out amongst all these people. My concern was that, and the fact that the standard he's held to. You're a deputy sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
While you're doing it, you weren't at the time it came out, and you're a public official. Everything I'm held to, you're the same thing. Is this public?
Yep.
And everybody was no. So I honored that. Because when they tell me it ain't, I'm not going to touch it, because that's following the rules. But if it would have been something we owed the public, then prepare for it, because it's going to be ugly. Because HR gives everything else out that's public. So it's redacted down to just the word the
right.
and is and everything else. But
yep.
they meet their mandate. And those are the things I was trying to prepare for. And Michelle was I think she kind of tried to tell me how it was going to be when I got it. And we got this handed to us kind of with the idea it was going to be, which scared me, because Joan Quady, the attorney that handled the arbitration, she felt that it was and told us that. Michelle thought it was. So I was asking those questions to confirm, especially through my HR, Roby and them in Duluth, and
mm-hmm.
Rick Hodson, our general counsel with the MSA. Those guys have a broader
knowledge of it,
of what is and what isn't.
Right.
Of course, Kevin comes back with, that's attached to the arbitration. It probably should be. And if I wanted to, I could have taken that opinion right there. And
yeah, portions of it could be considered public, but
not the thing.
Right.
Yeah, and I know that. That's the trouble, But those are why I was asking that, and I was preparing for a much bigger thing that hit me broadside when it came out in the paper.
Why did any? Do you know why it came out so? It's kind of ironic that it comes out 2 days before the election, or gets sent to you guys right before it, and then it's immediately forwarded to the Grand Rapids Herald. It's one.
I have no idea.
Just ironic that.
I could sit here and speculate.
I just didn't know if somebody requested Michelle get this done with before, before the election or not. No, because getting that done before the election wouldn't have done us any good. I mean, there's so many facets of that weren't done. Yeah. Including
the pending employment stuff. Right. I mean, there's stuff.
Is all the other spiderweb of people investigations over?
I couldn't tell you, because the part we forwarded to Beltrami.
Are they doing a conflict for you guys?
No, they were doing theft of time thing.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
that's originally was.
And that's another component in this thing,
Yeah.
is the release is untimely because of the fact that in those data and in that findings, there were things that suggested Brian's knowledge of his theft of time in his text messages that would be part of the criminal file in Bemidji.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like...
Was there any criminal charges filed to your knowledge from Brian?
It's open and pending. It was charged out initially, and then the prosecutor pulled the charges for prosecution, discretion.
Yep.
Because Brian and his attorney turned in time that he felt made up for the time that he didn't go to DARE classes.
Right.
After further review, it finds out the time he turned in wasn't accurate either to make up for the time he said he was gone.
So it's under review still again?
Got it all back. And then since then, that's all this other stuff has come with it. So I think that's the only places you'd see that we have it was out to Post Board, to Beltrami, and then the attorneys that you've talked to. And yeah.
Brian and his wife seem to think that is it J. Scott Casper, a friend of yours?
Yep, I know him.
May have received received part of this information. It may have been behind giving it to the newspaper. Do you have any knowledge of Jay having it, or?
No. Scott Casper?
Yeah.
No. Where did he get it?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm not saying that he did. I'm just saying that Brian and his wife implied that they believe that. I think it was through Facebook, through different comments, Jay made that, and I looked at him and kind of thought the same thing, was that the only way he could have made those comments is if he
knew it or had it or
if
something.
he's seen it or known it or read it or heard it from somebody.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's got.
Is he a close friend of yours or just a friend? Or
no, he helped with our election stuff and
campaign
stuff. I mean, not anybody I hang out with or anything.
You know, I guess,
mean, his wife works here. She's a dispatcher.
Right.
I mean, I know him enough to talk to him. He's been in here a couple times. I know he was looking for the information. I don't think Lynn Hart ever gave him anything.
Yeah. My first impression when I kind of started with this whole thing and reviewing everything was that it was somebody in your campaign anyway that's taken this really to heart and thinks it would have been a good thing. That was just kind of a thought process, and I'm not saying you.
Well, I wouldn't say they wouldn't if they got their hands on it somehow. I wouldn't say they wouldn't. But none of the people that I have had run-ins with, they were as surprised as me. They were asking me about how this was, and I'm like, I have no idea, you know. Casper, what he was spouting off, I don't know. If he was, and there was so much of that.
Yeah.
That social media chatter. That's one thing I have basically, I can't even stand to look at that crap no more. Because it's just like the old days when people didn't like you. They at least lived out in the woods and didn't like you. Now they all got a world stage.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I couldn't tell you. I mean, you could ask him or, you know.
Right.
But it's one of those things where now we're down the road and it's out there. So when I know people spout about it or bring it up, it's like, well, okay, so they might know it from the papers or they might know it from...
Right.
It wasn't like when it came out that day in the paper, because I knew they were asking me those questions, and I thought, how the hell did they know that? And then and it was like almost like that weekend it came out, and I'm reading that going, you got to be kidding me. I just was floored. So, I don't know. I wish I could help more.
Okay. Anything else you want to say, Sheriff, or you think I should know, or anything I haven't asked you?
I don't think so. How would I know what you haven't asked me?
Maybe there's a question I haven't asked you.
Teasing.
I always,
Yeah.
you'd be primarily in like sexual assault cases when you get kids, and that's
They would
primarily
turn
what I
to you
do.
and ask you that.
Well, no, I'll ask if you'd be surprised the amount of times I ask that question at the end of a sexual assault victim.
Yep.
I'll ask them, is there any question I haven't asked you? And they say, well, you didn't ask me about this person. Did they do this to me? Or this and this. And they will come forward with way more
Disclose
information
it more.
that you didn't, because you didn't know to ask them that.
Yeah.
They weren't going to bring it forward. But you ask that question at the end of a victim interview, and they'll be surprised the amount of kids that will come forward.
Especially little kids.
And tell you things.
Because they're waiting for
why
you to
didn't you ask
ask
me
it.
this?
Yeah. They're waiting for you to ask it, but you just didn't.
But you didn't know to ask.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's kind of a habit. As many people as I interview, I always, at the end, a lot of people will say, well, we didn't talk about this, or you didn't ask me this. And
At the end of the day, with all the stuff that Brian has pulled and the way he's run, he's got to live his life. But I still wouldn't wish any ill will on the man. That ain't my job. My job was to hold him accountable for when he was under my supervision. And beyond that, I would never look to see if bad things happen to him or his family. I just wouldn't. It ain't my nature. And that's why I think this job's slowly killing me, because I just do take everything personally, and I do take everything serious. And I've got this Pollyanna belief that, you just don't cross that line. Because once you do, the next time's easier, and pretty soon you're down a road nobody wants you down. So, I don't know. All I know is that how that got out, I did not give that out to anyone. I did not send it to them or burn these discs or floppy drives or whatever. I just don't know. But I'm almost to the point where you're like in something like this after this election year, you just wore out on it. You're like, yeah, whatever. You please, if you can figure it out, figure it out. But
right. Okay. Anything more?
nope. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Okay. Time is 10:54 a.m.